This man was never famous, yet most of human history lived exactly like this. If you are listening at night, tell me where you are and what time it is. Night settles gently, without asking for attention. It moves the way it always has, slow and familiar, touching the edges of roofs, fields, and trees that have stood quietly for generations. This is a good time to listen. A time when nothing needs to be understood quickly. A time when the past does not rush forward, but waits, patient, as if it knows you are tired. The world we are about to notice is not loud. It does not announce itself. It simply exists and has done so for a very long time. Somewhere in medieval Europe, long before clocks mattered to ordinary people, a farmer sleeps. The bed is simple. The room is dark, though not completely. A little moonlight rests on the floor, finding its way through gaps that were never meant to keep everything out. The house does not try to impress anyone. It is made from what was nearby, what was available, what hands could manage. Wood, earth, straw, patience. It holds warmth when it can, and lets cold in when it must. The farmer is used to this. Sleep comes not as an escape, but as a pause. Morning will arrive when it feels ready. No bell will ring for it. No voice will announce it. The light will change slowly, almost shyly, and the house will notice before the farmer does. This is how most days begin, not with urgency, but with a gradual return to awareness. The farmer opens his eyes and stays still for a moment, listening. Not for anything in particular, just listening, the way someone does when life has taught them that the world speaks softly most of the time. Outside, the land waits, fields stretch, out in uneven shapes, shaped by effort rather than design. They are not dramatic. They do not look impressive from a distance, but they are known intimately. Every slight rise and dip has been walked across many times. The soil has been touched, turned, broken, and smoothed again by the same hands, year after year. The farmer does not think of the land as scenery. It is more like a companion, sometimes cooperative, sometimes distant. Never entirely predictable. The air in the early morning carries a familiar coolness. It is the kind of air that does not surprise anyone. It smells of damp earth and old grass, of last night's fire and yesterday's work. The farmer steps outside, not because he is eager, but because this is what happens next. Animals stir. Chickens move without purpose, as if they too are remembering what morning is supposed to be. A cow shifts its weight and breathes heavily, unbothered by philosophy or time. There is no clear line between work and life here. The two have grown together for so long that separating them would feel strange. The farmer does not wake up with goals. He wakes up with continuity. Today connects to yesterday, and yesterday to the day before that. Seasons pass, but routines remain. The hands know what to do before the mind fully catches up. A tool is lifted. A door is opened. Water is fetched. None of it feels new. The clothing is worn, not because it is neglected, but because it is trusted. Fabric has softened where it needed to. Roughness remains where it causes no trouble. Shoes are sturdy and forgiving. They have known mud and stone and long hours of standing still. The farmer dresses without thinking too much about it. Thinking is saved for moments when it is required. Most of life does not ask for that. As the sun rises, it does not demand. attention. It simply shows itself, gradually revealing what was already there. The fields look much the same as they did yesterday. That is comforting. Change happens here, but slowly. A crop grows taller. A fence leans a little more than it used to. A tree loses a branch in a storm and becomes slightly easier to recognize. These are not disruptions. They are adjustments. The farmer moves through the morning at a steady pace. There is no reason to hurry. Hurrying does not make the day easier. It only makes it louder. Tasks are done in the order they usually are, not because anyone wrote them down, but because this order has proven itself over time. Animals are tended to. Tools are checked. The soil is felt between fingers, not to analyze it, but to greet. It is still there. That is enough. Other people exist nearby. Neighbors, family, familiar figures moving through their own routines. They may exchange a few words, or none at all. Silence is not uncomfortable here. It does not need to be filled. Everyone understands what needs to be done, and that understanding is shared without discussion. Lives overlap gently, like paths that cross and then continue on their separate ways. There is no sense of history being made. No awareness that this way of living will someday be studied, described, or imagined by people far away in time. For the farmer, this is not the medieval period. It is simply now. It is the way things are. The future feels distant and vague. And the past feels close, almost present. Grandparents worked this land. Their movements still seem visible in the way certain habits remain. As the morning settles in, the day opens itself slowly. Nothing dramatic waits ahead, just more of the same, and that sameness carries a quiet comfort. The farmer does not expect happiness from the day, but he does not expect trouble either. There is a steady middle ground where most moments live. It is not exciting, but it is dependable. And for now, that is enough. The land breathes in the light. The farmer continues moving, unhurried, familiar with every step. Time stretches gently, not pressing forward, not pulling back. It simply allows things to happen in their own way. And the day, like so many before it, begins without ceremony, content to unfold slowly. One ordinary moment at a time. The day continues without asking permission. After the first light has settled and the small motions of morning have found their place, the farmer moves deeper into the hours that follow. The sun is higher now, though it does not feel different in a dramatic way. It simply makes things easier to see. Shadows shorten. The ground warms slightly. The air loses some of its cool hesitation and becomes steady. Work fills the space naturally. Not because there is ambition attached to it, but because stillness is not the habit of daylight. The farmer bends, straightens, bends again. Each movement feels known. Muscles do not complain loudly. They accept what is expected of them, as they have learned to do over time. There is no counting of hours. The body keeps its own sense of when enough has been done, and when more can be managed. The field is quiet, but not empty. Insects move through the air without concern. Birds settle and lift again, never staying long in one place. The soil receives the farmer's attention patiently. It does not reward effort immediately. It remembers it instead. Seeds placed now will respond later when they decide the moment is right. This delay is understood. It is part of the agreement between human hands and the land. Tools rest nearby, simple and familiar. They are not polished, but they are cared for. A tool that works is enough. It does not need to be admired. The farmer uses it, sets it down, picks it up again. The rhythm of this repeats, slow and dependable. There is comfort in repetition. It quiets the mind. Thoughts drift without direction, sometimes pausing on nothing at all. From time to time, the farmer pauses, not to rest exactly, but to stand still, to look across the field, to notice the way the light touches the ground. Unevenly. These moments are not planned. They arrive on their own. The farmer does not label them as important, but they linger anyway. Stillness slips into the day briefly, like a breath taken without thinking. Nearby, a path leads toward the village. It has been worn into place by many feet, most of them familiar. The farmer knows who will pass along it today, and who probably will not. Faces are remembered not because they are studied, but because they appear again and again over years. Life here is built on recognition rather than surprise. As midday approaches, hunger makes itself known quietly. Not sharply, not urgently, just a gentle reminder. Food is simple. Bread that has been made many times before. Perhaps some cheese. Perhaps something preserved from an earlier season. Eating is another task, though a softer one. It is done sitting or standing, wherever it fits naturally into the flow of the day. The farmer eats without distraction. There is nothing else demanding attention. Each bite is taken slowly, not out of ceremony, but because there is no reason to rush it. The food tastes the way it always does. That familiarity is reassuring. The body accepts it gratefully, without expectation of variety or indulgence. After eating, work resumes. The sun lingers overhead, patient and steady. Time stretches here in a way that feels wide but not empty. The farmer does not think of the afternoon as something to get through. It is simply another portion of the day, no heavier or lighter than the rest. The hands return to their tasks, guided by habit more than decision. Occasionally, another person appears at the edge of the field, a neighbor passing by, a relative bringing a brief message. Words are exchanged, but sparingly. Conversation is practical and often unfinished. There is an understanding that silence can hold meaning just as well as speech. No one feels compelled to fill it. The sky shifts gradually, clouds moving without purpose. Weather is noticed, but not judged. Rain will come when it does. Wind will move through when it chooses to. The farmer adapts, as always. Plans here are flexible by necessity. Certainty is rare, but acceptance is strong. As the afternoon begins to lean toward evening, the pace softens. Work does not stop suddenly. It fades. Tasks become fewer, movements slower. The body signals that it has done enough for now. The farmer listens. There is no pride in exhaustion, no shame in stopping. Balance is learned early, through experience rather than instruction. The fields are left behind for the moment, not abandoned, just allowed to rest. They will be there tomorrow. They always are. The farmer turns back toward home, following the same path, feeling the same ground underfoot. The light has changed again, warmer now, stretched longer across the land. At the house, the familiar shape waits. Smoke may rise gently from the hearth. The inside holds the quiet memory of the morning. The farmer steps in, carrying the day without thinking about it. There is a sense of return, not achievement, just return. Evening settles in slowly, like everything else. It does not arrive all at once. It gathers itself around the edges of the day, softening sounds, easing movement. The farmer prepares for the night with the same calm attention given to the morning. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is delayed unnecessarily. As light fades, the world grows smaller. The farmer's focus narrows to what is close: warmth, shelter, familiar presence. The larger world can wait. It always does. And as the day releases its hold, there is no need to reflect on it. It is past, complete in its ordinariness, ready to become part of the quiet, continuous memory of life. Night gathers again, slowly, as if it has learned patience from watching people live. The farmer notices it not by the sky alone, but by the way sounds change. Distant movements soften, voices become fewer. The land exhales the warmth it held during the day, releasing it back into the dark. Inside the house, the fire settles into a quieter presence, glowing more than burning. Content to be useful without effort, there is a rhythm to evenings that does not need direction. Simple tasks appear and are completed without ceremony. A tool is leaned against a wall where it will be found again. A door is checked, not because danger is expected, but because habit has decided this is the moment. The farmer's movements are slower now, not from weakness, but from familiarity. Nothing here needs to be hurried into place. Food is prepared again, modest and dependable. The act of eating at night feels different than it did at midday. It carries the weight of the day behind it, though no one names that weight aloud. The farmer eats quietly, perhaps with others nearby, perhaps alone. Conversation, if it happens, drifts gently and then dissolves. Silence returns without resistance. Outside, the fields disappear into darkness, though they have not gone anywhere. The farmer knows where everything is, even without seeing it. That knowledge does not vanish when the light does. It rests instead, like a memory that does not need to be recalled actively. Tomorrow will bring the land back into view. There is no concern about that. As the fire dims further, shadows stretch and settle into corners where they will remain until morning. The house creaks softly, adjusting to the cooler air. These sounds are not unsettling. They are familiar companions, marking the passage of time more reliably than any device ever could. The farmer listens without focusing, letting the sounds pass through awareness and fade. Sleep approaches gradually. It is not summoned. It arrives on its own, encouraged by the steady quiet of the space. The farmer lies down, body accepting rest. Without negotiation, muscles release their attention. The mind does not race. Thoughts wander briefly, touching moments from the day without stopping on any of them. Nothing insists on being remembered. Outside, the night continues its quiet work. The sky holds its stars without display. Somewhere beyond the fields, beyond the village paths and familiar boundaries, the world goes on in ways the farmer will never see. This does not feel troubling. It feels natural. A life does not need to contain everything. Breathing slows. The house holds its shape. The land waits, unchanged in its patience. Another day has folded itself gently into the past, not as a story worth telling, but as part of a long, even stretch of living. And in that steadiness, sleep settles fully, carrying the farmer forward without urgency toward a morning that will arrive when it is ready. Morning returns quietly, as it always does, without asking whether anyone is ready for it. The light appears again, not brighter than yesterday, not dimmer, simply present. It finds the same walls, the same floor, the same still shapes left behind. By sleep, the farmer wakes in a familiar way, not sharply, not all at once. Awareness gathers slowly, like mist lifting from the ground, revealing what has been there all along. The body remembers before the mind does. A shift of weight, a breath, taken deeper than the last. The subtle recognition that rest has done what it can for now. There is no decision involved. Rising feels less like a choice and more like a continuation. The day is not new so much as resumed. Outside, the world has not changed much in the night. That is part of its comfort. The same field stretches outward. The same paths hold their shape. Even after storms, even after seasons, the land remains itself. The farmer steps into the morning with an ease that comes from long acquaintance. Nothing needs to be introduced. There is a particular closeness between a farmer and the land that develops quietly. Without ceremony, it is not affection in the way people speak of it later. It is recognition. The soil is known by touch. The smell of it after rain carries information that does not need to be translated into words. The farmer does not think about understanding the land. Understanding has already happened, slowly, over years. Work begins again, though it never truly stopped. Tasks wait where they were left, patient and unjudging. Some days demand more effort than others. Some offer less resistance. The farmer notices these differences without attaching meaning to them. They are accepted as part of the rhythm, no. More remarkable than changes in weather or light. Seasons matter here, but not in a dramatic way. They are not milestones to be celebrated or feared. They are simply the background against which life moves. Spring brings softness to the ground. Summer stretches the days. Autumn gathers what has grown. Winter pulls everything inward. Each season teaches the farmer something different, though none of those lessons are spoken aloud. As the farmer moves through the field, there is a sense of time layered rather than linear. The work being done today echoes work done years before. The same gestures have been repeated by other hands, now absent but not forgotten. The land carries those repetitions quietly. It remembers effort even when people do not. There is no hurry. To improve things, improvement happens slowly, if at all. A fence is repaired when it fails, not before. A tool is replaced when it can no longer be trusted. Life here favors maintenance over progress. Keeping things going is enough. Ambition would feel out of place, like noise in an otherwise calm room. The farmer pauses now and then, leaning lightly on a tool, looking out across the field without searching for anything specific. These moments are not breaks in work. They are part of it. The mind drifts, but not far. Thoughts rise and fall gently, never staying long enough to demand attention. The body remains present, steady and grounded. The village nearby continues its quiet existence alongside the fields. Smoke lifts from chimneys in thin lines. Doors open and close. People move past one another with familiarity rather than curiosity. News travels slowly, carried by voices rather than urgency. Most things can wait until tomorrow. Many things wait much longer than that. There is comfort in knowing what to expect. The farmer does not imagine a different life. Imagination is not discouraged, but it is not encouraged either. The known world fills the available space. Beyond it, there is little reason to look. The boundaries of life feel sufficient, even generous. As the sun climbs higher, the warmth becomes more noticeable. The farmer adjusts, without thinking, loosening clothing, wiping sweat away with the back of a hand. Discomfort is not dramatic. It is simply another sensation, acknowledged and then allowed to pass. The body adapts, as it always has. Midday approaches again, though it does not announce itself. Hunger returns softly, like a familiar voice heard from another room. The farmer responds when it becomes convenient, not immediately. There is trust that food will be there when it is needed. This trust is not based on optimism, but on experience. Eating is quiet. The food is what it is. It carries no expectation beyond nourishment. The farmer eats slowly, without distraction, aware of the simple pleasure of being sustained. Afterward, there is no lingering. The day continues, unbroken. The afternoon stretches out ahead, wide and unremarkable. There is more work to be done. And it will be done, one motion at a time. The farmer returns to the field, to the soil, to the steady repetition that anchors the hours. Time moves, but gently, like water passing around stones, never forcing its way through. Nothing here asks to be remembered as special, and yet each moment settles into place, adding its quiet weight to a life shaped not by events, but by continuity. The day moves on, untroubled, carrying the farmer with it, deeper into the slow, familiar rhythm that defines everything that follows. The afternoon does not hurry. It opens itself slowly, stretching the light across the fields in a way that feels unplanned but reliable. The farmer moves within this space without urgency, guided by habit rather than intention. Each task presents itself in turn, not demanding attention, only waiting for it. There is no sense of falling behind. The day unfolds at its own pace, and the farmer follows. The work of the afternoon is quieter than the morning, not because it is easier, but because the body has settled into its rhythm. Movements become smoother, more economical. There is less thought in them now. Hands know where to reach, feet know where to step. The farmer's attention drifts gently between the upon task at hand and the surrounding stillness, never fully leaving either. The land responds slowly. It always has. The soil accepts what is given without comment. There is no immediate reward for effort, no visible confirmation that today's work will matter later. This uncertainty is familiar. It does not cause concern. The farmer has learned to trust the long view, even without consciously naming it as such. From time to time, a cloud passes in front of the sun, cooling the field briefly. The change is subtle, but noticed. The farmer pauses for a moment, not because the pause is necessary, but because it feels natural. The world offers these small shifts, and life adjusts quietly around them. In the distance, the village continues its steady existence. Sounds drift across the fields in softened forms. A voice calling to someone nearby. The dull knock of wood against wood. These sounds do not interrupt the work. They weave into it, becoming part of the background hum of life. The farmer does not turn to look. There is no need. Everything sounds as it should. The hours pass without markers. There is no bell to divide them, no clock to measure their weight. The farmer senses time through changes in light and temperature, through the subtle signals of the body. Fatigue arrives gently, not as a warning, but as information. It is listened to, not resisted. There are moments when the farmer's thoughts wander further than usual. Not toward dreams of change or distant places, but toward small recollections, a harvest from years ago, a storm that arrived unexpectedly, a person no longer seen in the fields. These memories surface without invitation and fade just as quietly. They do not linger long enough to disturb the present. The land holds these memories too, in its own way. Paths remember footsteps. Fence posts remember hands that set them in place. The farmer moves among these traces without consciously acknowledging them. Familiarity does not require recognition. It simply exists. As the sun begins its slow descent, the quality of light changes again. It grows warmer, softer, touching the fields with a gentler presence. Shadows lengthen, stretching across the ground in unhurried lines. The farmer notices this without assigning meaning to it. Evening will come when it does. There is no need to prepare for it yet. Work continues, but it loosens its grip. Tasks become fewer. Movements slow further. The farmer's attention narrows, focusing more on what is close. The hands, the soil, the tool. Everything else recedes slightly, as if giving space for rest to approach. A neighbor may pass by again, exchanging a nod or a brief word. There is no expectation of conversation. Shared silence feels complete on its own. Everyone here understands the weight of the day, though no one speaks of it. Understanding does not require language. The farmer finishes what feels like the last necessary task, though there is no clear boundary marking it as such. It simply feels right to stop. The land does not protest. It accepts the pause as naturally. As it accepted the work, tomorrow will bring more time. That is enough. Turning back toward home, the farmer follows the same path once more. The ground feels different now, cooler, firmer. The air carries the promise of night without any urgency. Birds settle into quieter patterns. The field grows still, not empty, just resting. The house comes into view, familiar and unchanging. It does not welcome or reject. It simply waits. The farmer approaches without anticipation, carrying the afternoon within the body, letting it settle. There is no need to reflect on what was done. The work has already found its place. As the threshold is crossed, the day begins to close itself gently. The outside world softens further, its sounds becoming distant. Inside, the quiet deepens. The farmer sets things down where they belong. Not because they must be perfect, but because this is where they have always been. The afternoon releases its hold slowly, easing into evening without resistance. The farmer moves with it, neither leading nor following, simply continuing. Time passes unnoticed, carrying the day toward its quieter hours, where effort fades and familiarity takes over once more. Evening settles into its place without instruction. It arrives the way a familiar presence does, recognized more by feeling than by sight. The farmer senses it in the cooling air, in the way sounds soften and stretch out. The day loosens its grip, not suddenly, but with a slow release that feels earned. Inside the house, The fire is tended gently. It does not need much attention now, just enough to keep its quiet warmth alive. The farmer's movements are deliberate but unforced, shaped by repetition rather than thought. Each small task completes itself almost before it is noticed. A vessel set down, a bench shifted slightly, a door eased into place. Food appears again, simple and expected. It is eaten without ceremony, without discussion. The taste is familiar, comforting in its predictability. Hunger fades, replaced by a steady calm. There is no desire for more than this. Enough has always been enough here. Darkness presses lightly against the walls, never threatening, only present. The farmer listens to the night sounds without focusing on any one of them. An animal moving somewhere nearby, the wind brushing against the structure of the house. These sounds do not interrupt thought. They carry it gently toward rest. When sleep comes, it does not rush in. It waits, allowing the body to settle fully. The farmer lies down, feeling the shape of the space, the quiet weight of the day now complete. There is no need to recall what was done or left undone. Tomorrow has room for that. Breathing slows. Muscles soften. Awareness drifts, not away, but inward. Outside, the fields remain unseen but unchanged, holding their silence patiently. Another day has passed without fanfare, folding itself into the long, steady pattern of life. And in that pattern, nothing asks for attention, nothing demands meaning. The night simply holds, and the farmer rests within it, carried forward gently, as always, toward whatever comes next. The next morning does not feel separate from the ones before it. It rises out of the night as if it had been waiting there all along, quiet and patient. Light slips back into the house, touching familiar surfaces without emphasis. The farmer wakes in the same unremarkable way, the body responding first, the mind following slowly behind. Like someone arriving late to a place they already know well, there is no sense of starting over. Life here does not reset each day. It continues. Sleep has softened the edges of yesterday, but it has not erased it. The farmer stands, stretches only slightly, and moves into the day without pausing to consider what it might bring. Whatever arrives will be handled in the way things always are, one moment after another. Outside, the land feels unchanged, though change is always present in small, quiet forms. The farmer notices a patch of ground that holds moisture a little longer than the rest, a plant leaning differently than it did before. These observations do not gather into conclusions. They remain as impressions, stored somewhere beneath thought, ready to be useful later if needed. Morning tasks begin again, familiar and steady. Animals are checked, not out of affection exactly, but out of responsibility that has grown comfortable over time. The farmer knows their habits well enough to sense when something is slightly off. Most mornings, nothing is. That is reassuring. Predictability here is a kind of peace. The sky stretches overhead, wide and unconcerned. Clouds drift without intention. The farmer glances upward briefly, not searching for signs, just acknowledging the space above. Weather will do what it does. Planning around it is possible only to a point. Acceptance fills in the rest. As work continues, the body settles into motion once more. There is a rhythm that carries effort forward without strain. The farmer's Breathing aligns with movement, steady and unremarkable. Time passes without being counted. It is measured instead by sensation, warmth on the back, pressure in the hands, the quiet awareness of being exactly where one is meant to be. The land does not speak, but it responds. Not quickly, not clearly. The farmer has learned to read these responses without expecting precision. A harvest is never guaranteed. Neither is failure. Most outcomes live somewhere between the two, and that middle space has become familiar territory. There are moments when the farmer works alongside others. Family members move through the field, each attending to their own portion of the day. There is no coordination beyond what has already been understood for years. People know where to be, what to do. Conversation is sparse and practical. Words are exchanged only when necessary, and sometimes not even then. Children may be nearby, moving in and out of awareness. Their presence is light, their voices softer than one might expect. They learn by watching rather than being told. The rhythms of the land settle into them slowly, shaping their sense of time before they know what time is. Mid-morning arrives quietly. The sun has lifted higher, though it still does not feel demanding. The farmer pauses briefly, not to rest exactly, but to adjust. A tool is shifted from one hand to the other. A hat is pulled lower. These small accommodations keep the day balanced. There is no sense of being watched, no audience. Life unfolds privately, even when others are near. The farmer does not perform work. It simply happens. Pride is not absent, but it is subtle, tied more to continuity than achievement. Keeping things going is the quiet goal, even if it is never spoken. Thoughts wander occasionally, but not far. The mind drifts toward practical matters. How much seed remains? Whether a fence will need attention soon? These thoughts rise and fade naturally, without urgency. There is time for them later, if needed. For now, the body continues its steady labor. The village remains present at the edge of the day, close enough to feel, distant enough to ignore. Its routines mirror the farmer's in their own way. Lives intersect gently, without friction. Everyone here understands the unspoken agreement to move slowly, to let the day take its shape. As midday approaches, hunger returns once more, familiar and mild. The farmer responds when it feels appropriate, not immediately. Food waits, as it always does. There is trust in that waiting. It has rarely been misplaced. Eating happens where it fits naturally into the day, perhaps in the shade, perhaps standing. The food carries no novelty. It tastes like sustenance, like continuity. Each bite is taken without thought, absorbed into the quiet flow of the hours afterward. There is no pause for reflection. The day moves on. Work resumes, not as an obligation, but as the natural next step. The farmer returns to the field, to the soil, to the steady repetition that holds everything together. Nothing here seeks attention. Nothing asks to be remembered. And yet, each moment settles into place, adding to the long, even accumulation of days. The farmer moves through this accumulation without counting it, carried by habit, by land, by a rhythm that does not need to explain itself. The morning stretches onward, unremarkable and complete in its ordinariness, lay in the quiet. foundation for everything that will follow. The afternoon opens itself quietly, as if it has been waiting nearby all along. The light shifts almost without notice, settling into a softer angle that rests gently on the land. The farmer feels this change more than sees it. The warmth moves differently now, less direct, more patient. The body adjusts without instruction, continuing its work with the same steady attention. Tasks in the afternoon have a different weight. Not heavier, just slower. The farmer works with an ease that comes from knowing there is time, even when time is never measured. The hands move through motions learned long ago, guided by memory rather than thought. Each action fits into the next without pause, like steps in a path that does not need to be planned. The land seems quieter now, though it has not truly changed. Sounds drift farther apart. Insects hum softly, then fall silent again. The farmer hears these things without listening for them. They exist in the background, like a familiar presence that does not need to be acknowledged to be felt. Occasionally, the farmer straightens and looks across the field, not searching, not evaluating, just looking. The field looks back in its own way, offering no commentary. This exchange feels complete without words. The farmer lowers his gaze again and continues, satisfied without knowing why. Fatigue arrives gently, not as discomfort but as a soft signal. The farmer responds by slowing slightly, letting movements take more time. There is no resistance to this change. The body knows how to pace itself, having learned through many days like this one. Rest will come when it is needed. For now, there is still room to continue. The afternoon light stretches shadows across the ground, lengthening them without urgency. Fence posts cast thin lines that shift slowly as the sun moves. The farmer notices these changes only in passing. They do not interrupt the work, they simply accompany it. Sometimes, another person appears briefly in the distance. A neighbor crossing a field, a family member returning from a task. There may be a nod, a brief word exchanged. Nothing more is required. Shared understanding fills the space where conversation might otherwise be. The farmer's thoughts wander lightly, not toward dreams or regrets, but towards small, practical considerations. Whether rain might come soon, whether a tool will need attention before long. These thoughts drift through awareness and pass on, leaving no trace. The present moment remains steady, untroubled. The land accepts effort without response. It does not hurry to show results. The farmer has learned not to expect them. Trust here is quiet and long-term. It is built not on certainty, but on familiarity. Most years, things grow. Most years, enough is gathered. That has been sufficient. As the sun continues its slow descent, the air cools slightly. The farmer feels this change on the skin in the way the breeze moves. There is relief in it, though no one would name it as such. Comfort here is understated, woven into the day rather than standing apart from it. Work begins to thin out naturally. Tasks complete themselves one by one, not in a strict order, but in a way that feels right. The farmer does not rush to finish. There is no finish line. There is only the moment when stopping feels appropriate. That moment arrives quietly. The farmer senses it without thinking. The hands rest. The tool is set down. The land is left as it is, trusted to hold itself until tomorrow. There is no concern in walking away. The field has waited before, and it will wait again. The path back toward home feels familiar underfoot. The ground carries the memory of many crossings, and the head, farmer's feet follow it without guidance. The light is softer now, less insistent. Evening begins to gather at the edges of the day. Though it does not yet take hold, the house appears ahead, steady and unchanged. It does not promise rest or warmth. It simply exists, offering shelter without comment. The farmer approaches without anticipation, carrying the afternoon within the body. Letting its quiet weight settle, crossing the threshold feels like a gentle transition rather than a boundary. The outside world does not disappear. It softens. Sounds grow distant. The air grows still. Inside, familiar shapes wait patiently, holding the memory of countless evenings before this one. The farmer moves through small evening tasks without hurry. A tool is leaned where it belongs. Clothing is adjusted. The fire is tended lightly, encouraged rather than commanded. Each action is small, but together they shape the slow closing of the day. Darkness presses closer, though it does not intrude. It waits outside, respectful and calm. Inside, the quiet deepens. The farmer's movements slow further, guided by the gentle pull of rest approaching. The afternoon has released its hold completely now, dissolving into evening without resistance. Nothing has been concluded. Nothing has been left unfinished. The day has simply taken its place among many others, adding its quiet presence to the long, unbroken rhythm of life that continues, steady and unremarkable, into the hours ahead. Evening settles fully now, not by announcement, but by agreement. The light thins until it no longer reaches into the corners of the house. The farmer notices this without looking up. The body already knows what this change means. Movements slow further, not out of fatigue alone, but out of familiarity. The day has reached its softer edge. Inside, the fire offers a low, steady glow. It does not ask for attention. It simply remains, warming the space gently. Shadows move slightly along the walls, shaped by flame and quiet air. The farmer sits for a while, not resting in any formal sense, just allowing stillness to arrive. There is no need to fill the moment. Food is finished. The simple remnants of the meal are set aside. Nothing is hurried away. Cleanliness here is practical rather than exact. Enough is done so that tomorrow will begin easily. That is the measure that matters. Outside, the night has settled over the fields. The land is invisible now, but not absent. The farmer feels its presence as something steady and reliable, even in darkness. It does not disappear when unseen. It waits, patient as ever. There may be quiet conversation, or none at all. Words are optional in the evening. Silence carries its own sense of completion. The farmer listens to the small sounds of the house, the subtle shifts and creaks that come with cooling air. These sounds are familiar, reassuring in their predictability. When it is time to sleep, there is no decision made. The body simply moves toward rest. The farmer lies down, feeling the firm support beneath, the known shape of the space. Breathing slows naturally. Thoughts drift briefly, touching the outline of the day without entering it. Nothing insists on being held. Outside, the night continues its quiet watch. Somewhere, an animal moves, Somewhere else, the wind passes lightly over ground and leaves. The farmer does not follow these sounds with attention. They exist, and that is enough. Sleep arrives without effort, folding gently around awareness. Another day has settled into memory, not marked or measured, just added to the long, steady continuity of living. The rhythm remains unbroken. The land waits. Morning will come again, unhurried, ready to begin where everything last rested. Morning arrives again without surprise, as though it never fully left. The night loosens its hold slowly, allowing pale light to return to the same quiet spaces it knows well. The farmer wakes in the middle of this gentle exchange, not startled, not eager, simply aware. Awareness settles in layers, one breath at a time, until the body understands that rest has finished its work for now. The house feels cool in the early hours. The air carries a faint memory of last night's fire, mixed with the dampness that always lingers near the ground. The farmer stands, stretches slightly, then pauses, standing still for a moment longer than necessary. There is no reason to rush into motion. The day is already waiting. Outside, the land holds its familiar shape. Morning light reveals it gradually, as if uncovering something delicate. The field looks much the same as it did yesterday. This sameness is not dull. It is grounding. The farmer steps onto the earth with the ease of someone stepping into a room. They have known their whole life. There are sounds now, but they are sparse and gentle. A bird settles somewhere nearby. An animal shifts its weight. These sounds do not ask for attention. They exist quietly, filling the air without disturbing it. The farmer notices them without reacting, allowing them to pass through awareness. Like slow-moving clouds, work begins without ceremony. The farmer does not plan the morning in detail. The order of tasks is already known, stored somewhere deeper than conscious thought. Hands move to where they are needed. Feet carry the body along familiar paths. Tools are lifted, used, set down again, all without emphasis. The soil feels different in the morning, cooler, slightly resistant. The farmer senses this through touch rather than thought. Adjustments are made instinctively. Pressure is changed. Movements are slowed or quickened just enough. The body understands how to listen to the land, even when the mind remains quiet. There is no sense of ownership in the modern meaning of the word. The farmer does not feel separate from the land, nor fully in control of it. The relationship is closer than that, and also more distant. The land provides, but it also decides. The farmer works within those decisions rather than against them. As the sun lifts higher, light spreads across the fields more evenly. Dew fades, shadows retreat. Slightly, the farmer notices these changes without naming them. They are part of the rhythm, expected and unremarkable. The day opens further, revealing more space to move within. From time to time, the farmer pauses, resting hands lightly on a tool, eyes moving across the field without focus. These pauses are not breaks. They are moments of alignment, where body, land, and time seem to settle into the same pace. Nothing needs to be thought through. Everything already makes sense. Nearby, other lives continue alongside this one. Someone passes at a distance. A familiar figure moves along a path, heading toward their own tasks. There may be a brief greeting or just a shared glance. Words are optional. Understanding is already present. Children might appear briefly, moving in uneven patterns, absorbed in their own quiet explorations. They do not interrupt the work. They are part of the landscape, as natural as the trees or the fences. Their presence adds motion without urgency. The farmer continues working through the morning hours, guided by habit and physical memory. The body warms gradually. Movements become smoother, more fluid. The rhythm deepens. Effort blends into repetition. Repetition into calm. Hunger arrives gently, without insistence. It waits. The farmer acknowledges it without stopping immediately. There is still something to finish, one more small task that feels complete enough to end on. When that moment arrives, eating follows naturally. Food is taken simply. There is no fixed place for it. Wherever the body happens to be is sufficient. The farmer eats slowly, not to savor, but because there is no reason not to. Each bite supports the work ahead, and that is enough. Afterward, the day continues seamlessly. There is no sharp division between morning and what follows. Time flows. Without edges, the farmer returns to the field, to the steady attention that holds the hours together. The sun continues its slow movement overhead, unnoticed except through sensation. Warmth settles more fully now. The air feels heavier, though not uncomfortable. The farmer adjusts without thinking, moving with the day rather than through it. Nothing unusual happens. Nothing remarkable interrupts the flow. And yet, the morning carries its own quiet weight, adding itself to the long accumulation of days. The farmer does not count them. There is no need. Each one finds its place naturally, shaping a life built not from moments of change, but from the calm persistence of ordinary time. The morning stretches onward, complete in itself, leaving plenty of space for whatever the rest of the day may bring, knowing it will arrive gently, as it always does. The afternoon arrives without ceremony, easing itself into the day as naturally as breath follows breath. The light shifts again, softer now, spreading across the land in a way that feels less direct, more settled. The farmer notices the change through the body rather than the eyes. The warmth presses differently against the skin. The shadows stretch and rest where they fall. Work continues, but its tone has changed. The morning's steadiness has softened into something looser, more forgiving. Movements slow slightly, not from tiredness alone, but from a sense that there is no need to hurry. The land will accept what is done at this pace just as willingly as any other. The farmer's hands move through familiar motions, guided by long memory. There is no counting, no measuring beyond what the body already knows. Pressure is adjusted instinctively. A task is continued until it feels complete, not until a rule says it should stop. This quiet judgment has been learned over many seasons, shaped by mistakes that no longer need to be remembered. The air carries more sound now, though nothing sharp. Insects move lazily. A distant voice drifts across the fields and fades before it can be understood. The farmer does not strain to listen. Meaning is not required. Presence is enough. Occasionally, the farmer pauses, standing still with a tool, resting lightly against the ground. These pauses arrive on their own, without intention. The body simply asks for stillness, and it is given. The land does not object. It seems to settle as well, as if work and rest are part of the same continuous motion. Thoughts wander gently. They do not form plans or questions. They drift instead toward small observations. The way the soil has dried since morning, the way a plant leans slightly toward the light. These details register quietly, without comment, stored somewhere beyond. Immediate awareness. There is no sense of isolation here. Even when alone in the field, the farmer feels connected to the surrounding lives. The village remains close, its presence felt rather than seen. Paths continue to be used. Smoke rises and thins. The rhythm of many quiet lives overlaps, creating a steady hum that never becomes noise. Fatigue arrives gradually, like a shadow lengthening without being noticed at first. The farmer responds by slowing further, allowing movements to become more deliberate. There is no resistance to this change. It feels appropriate, even welcome. The body knows when to ease its effort. The afternoon sun hangs lower now, though it does not feel urgent. Its light warms rather than presses. The farmer works within this gentler glow, aware that the day is beginning its slow turn toward evening. There is no need to mark the time. The shift will complete itself. Another figure may appear, briefly, passing through the edge of the field. A nod is exchanged. Perhaps a few quiet words. Nothing more is needed. Shared understanding fills the space easily, leaving no silence to be filled. The farmer finishes one task, then another, without labeling them as last or final. Work thins naturally, like a conversation winding down without anyone deciding to stop. The land accepts this easing without complaint. It seems content to wait. When the moment comes to leave the field, it is felt rather than chosen. The farmer sets the tool aside, not with finality, but with trust. It will be there tomorrow. The land will be there too, unchanged in its patience. The path back toward home feels familiar underfoot. The ground holds the day's warmth, releasing it slowly. The air cools slightly, offering relief without chill. The farmer walks without hurry, carrying the afternoon quietly within the body. The house comes into view, steady and unremarkable. It does not draw attention to itself. It simply waits, as it always has. Crossing the threshold feels like a gentle narrowing of the world. The wide openness of the field softens into the enclosed calm of familiar walls. Inside, small tasks appear and are completed without thought. A tool is leaned where it belongs. Clothing is adjusted. The fire is stirred. Lightly, encouraged to continue its quiet work. Each action flows into the next without pause. Outside, the afternoon continues its slow descent, though it is no longer the farmer's concern. Inside, the air grows still. Sounds soften further. The day's effort settles into the body, not as exhaustion, but as a calm weight that feels earned. The afternoon releases its whole completely, dissolving into the early edges of evening. Nothing has ended. Nothing has been concluded. The day has simply moved forward, as it always does, leaving the farmer carried gently into the quieter hours that follow. Evening arrives without a clear boundary, slipping into the day as quietly as a shadow lengthening across the floor. The farmer notices it in small ways. The air cools a little more. The light no longer reaches as far into the room. The sounds outside become fewer, more spaced apart, as if the world itself is growing tired. Inside the house, the fire holds steady. It no longer needs tending, only awareness. Its presence is enough. The farmer moves slowly now, not because of weariness alone, but because the pace of the day has softened everything. Movements feel heavier in a comfortable way, grounded and familiar. There may be others nearby, sharing the space, or there may be quiet solitude. Either way feels natural. Words are few, if they appear at all. Silence does not feel empty. It feels full of things that do not need to be spoken. The farmer sits for a while, letting the evening gather itself completely. Food is simple and expected. The act of eating feels less like nourishment and more like closure. Not an ending, but a settling. The body accepts what it is given without question. The farmer does not linger over the meal. When it is finished, it fades from attention easily. Outside, the fields are no longer visible, though they remain present. The farmer does not imagine them in detail. There is no need. Their shape is already known, held somewhere deeper than thought. Darkness does not erase them. It only asks them to wait. As the night deepens, the house makes its small sounds. Wood adjusts. The air moves gently through familiar gaps. These noises do not interrupt rest. They guide it. The farmer listens without listening, letting the mind drift without direction. When it is time to sleep, the body knows before the mind does. The farmer lies down, feeling the weight of the day settle into stillness. There is no review of what was done, no concern for what remains. Tomorrow will arrive with its own quiet instructions. Breathing slows. Awareness softens. The world narrows to warmth, to darkness, to the steady presence of rest. Outside, the land holds its silence patiently. Inside, sleep gathers and settles. Another day has taken its place among countless others, unmarked and complete in its ordinariness. The rhythm continues, uninterrupted. The night holds everything gently, and the farmer rests, carried forward, without urgency, toward a morning that will come when it is ready. Morning returns again, quietly finding its way back into the house. The light is pale at first, careful, as though it does not wish to disturb what the night has arranged. The farmer wakes slowly, not fully aware of the moment when sleep ends. And wakefulness begins. There is no clear edge between them. The body shifts, breathing changes. The day resumes where it last rested. The room feels familiar in the early light. Walls hold their shapes. The floor remains cool. Nothing has moved in the night in any way that matters. The farmer stands without haste, allowing stiffness to loosen on its own. There is no stretch performed with intention. Movement itself is enough. Outside, the air carries the scent of earth and old grass. Morning has its own quiet weight, lighter than the afternoon, softer than evening. The farmer steps into it without pause, feeling the ground underfoot, steady and known. The land has not changed. It rarely does in ways that announce themselves. The fields open slowly as the light strengthens. Details appear without effort, lines of soil, the uneven rise of ground, the familiar boundaries where one task ends and another begins. The farmer takes this in without reflection. Seeing is not separate from being here. It happens naturally. Work begins again, not because it must be started, but because it is already ongoing. The day does not ask for permission. Tasks wait in quiet readiness, shaped by yesterday and by seasons far older than memory. The farmer moves into them without thinking about beginnings or ends. The soil feels cool and slightly damp. It gives. Under pressure, then halts. The farmer senses this through hands and feet, adjusting instinctively. There is no calculation involved. The body has learned how to listen without forming questions. Morning work has a particular steadiness. The air is calm. Sounds are sparse. Each movement seems to take up more space, simply because there is less else happening. The farmer bends, straightens, bends again. The rhythm settles in quickly, smoothing thought until it drifts, almost out of reach. Time passes without markers. There is no moment that declares itself important. The farmer notices hunger eventually, not as discomfort, but as awareness. It waits patiently, allowing the hands to finish what they are doing before making itself known again. A pause comes. Naturally, the farmer stands still for a moment, resting lightly on a tool, eyes moving across the field without focus. The land looks back without comment. This exchange feels complete without explanation. After a moment, work resumes. Other lives move nearby, intersecting briefly. A figure passes along a path. A voice carries faintly and then disappears. These presences do not interrupt the morning. They belong to it. The farmer does not turn to. Look, there is no need to confirm what is already known. Children may wander into view, then out again, absorbed in quiet movement. They do not ask questions. They learn by being present. The rhythms of the land settle into them without instruction, shaping their sense of time and effort before they are aware of either. The sun climbs higher. Warmth spreads slowly, touching the back, the shoulders. The farmer adjusts without thought. Clothing is loosened. Movements shift slightly. Comfort is maintained not through control, but through attentiveness. The work continues. It does not feel endless, nor does it feel limited. It exists in the present, filling it just enough. The farmer does not imagine the work as something to complete. Completion is not the goal. Continuation is. There are small decisions made throughout the morning, though none of them feel significant. A path chosen, a task postponed. These choices are guided by experience rather than deliberation. They feel less like decisions and more like responses. The land responds slowly, as it always does. It does not show gratitude or resistance. It simply receives. The farmer has learned to accept this quiet relationship without expectation. Results come later, or they do not. Either way, the work remains the same. As the morning deepens, hunger returns, more insistent now, though still gentle. The farmer responds when it feels right, not immediately. There is one more small task that seems fitting to end on. When that task is finished, eating follows naturally. Food is simple and familiar. It is taken without ceremony, without anticipation. The farmer eats where standing feels sufficient, or where shade happens to be. Each bite supports the body quietly, without drawing attention to itself. Afterward, there is no lingering sense of pause. The day continues smoothly. Morning does not end. It blends into what follows. The farmer returns to the field, to the steady motions that hold the hours together. Nothing unusual interrupts the flow. Nothing demands thought. The morning settles into place, complete in its ordinariness. It adds itself gently to the long accumulation of days, each one nearly indistinguishable from the next, and yet essential in its own quiet way. The sun continues its slow rise. The land remains patient. The farmer moves within this calm, steady space, carried forward without urgency, ready to let the rest of the day arrive when it chooses to do so. The afternoon arrives without any sense of transition. It does not announce itself as something new. It simply continues the day in a slightly altered tone. The light shifts, softening around the edges. The air grows warmer, then steadier, settling into a temperature that feels familiar rather than noticeable. The farmer senses this change quietly, through the skin, through the pace of movement. Work carries on, though it no longer feels as deliberate as it did in the morning. The body has settled fully into its rhythm now. Movements flow more easily, guided by habit and memory rather than attention. The hands know what to do, and the mind allows them to do it without interference. The land seems calmer in the afternoon, though nothing has truly changed. Sounds stretch farther apart. A breeze moves through occasionally, touching the fields lightly, then passing on. The farmer notices these things without pausing, letting them exist alongside the work. There is a particular kind of quiet that belongs to these hours. It is not silence, but a thinning of sound. The farmer moves within it comfortably, untroubled by the lack of distraction. The absence of noise feels natural, as though the world itself is resting while still awake. Thoughts drift lazily, never settling for long. They move towards small observations, then dissolve. The way the soil has dried since morning, the way a shadow now reaches farther than it did before. These details register softly, without forming conclusions. The present moment remains enough, from time to time. The farmer pauses, straightening slowly, resting weight from one foot to the other. These pauses are not planned. They arrive when the body asks for them. The land does not resist the stillness. It accepts it as easily as it accepts effort. The afternoon sun hangs lower now, its warmth less direct. The farmer feels relief in this change, though it is never named as such. Comfort here is subtle, woven into the steady passage of the day rather than standing out from it. A figure may pass along the edge of the field, moving toward their own work or returning from it. A nod may be exchanged, or nothing at all. Presence is acknowledged without ceremony. Shared understanding fills the space easily. Fatigue arrives gradually, not as heaviness, but as a soft signal. The farmer responds by slowing, allowing tasks to stretch out rather than forcing them forward. There is no concern about how much remains to be done. Whatever is left will wait. The afternoon continues its slow arc toward evening. The light grows warmer again, though fainter. Shadows lengthen and settle across the ground. The farmer notices this change without marking it as significant. It is simply the way the day moves. Tasks begin to complete themselves one by one, not because there is a list being followed, but because each motion reaches a natural stopping point. The farmer senses when enough has been done for now. The land does not object. It seems content to hold what has been given. When the moment comes to leave the field, it is felt quietly. The farmer sets the tool aside without finality, trusting it to remain where it is. Tomorrow will find it again. The land will be there too, unchanged in its patience. The walk back toward home is unhurried. The ground feels cooler now, releasing the warmth it gathered earlier. The air moves more freely. Birds settle into quieter patterns. The farmer carries the afternoon within the body, letting it settle without reflection. The house waits ahead, steady and familiar. Crossing the threshold narrows the world gently. Outside sounds soften. Inside, the quiet deepens. The farmer moves through small tasks without thought, guided by routine rather than intention. The afternoon loosens its hold completely now, dissolving into the softer edge of evening. Nothing has ended. Nothing has been completed in any final sense. The day has simply shifted, making room for rest to approach slowly. As it always does, evening settles into the house with a familiar ease. It does not arrive suddenly. It gathers itself slowly, dimming the light until it rests only near the fire and the doorway. The farmer feels the change without looking for it. The body recognizes this hour instinctively, as it always has. The fire is encouraged gently, not built up, not allowed to fade. It glows with a steady warmth that fills the small space without effort. The farmer moves nearby, completing small motions that belong to this time of day. Nothing is urgent. Nothing asks to be finished quickly. Food appears again, modest and expected. The farmer eats without thinking about taste or variety. The meal feels like a soft closing gesture, not an ending, but a settling. Hunger recedes quietly. Comfort takes its place. Outside, the fields are dark now, though they feel no different for it. The farmer does not imagine them in detail. Their presence is known without being seen. Darkness does not create distance here. It only changes the way things are held in awareness. The house makes its familiar sounds as the air cools. Wood shifts slightly. A faint breeze finds its way through small openings and then moves on. These sounds are not distractions. They guide attention gently inward, toward rest. If others are present, conversation is brief or absent. Words are unnecessary now. The day has said enough. Silence holds what remains. The farmer sits for a while, letting stillness complete itself. When sleep approaches, it does not ask permission. The body responds naturally, moving toward rest without resistance. The farmer lies down, feeling the known shape of the space, the steady support beneath. Breathing slows. Muscles release. Thoughts drift lightly, touching the outline of the day without entering it. Nothing asks to be remembered. Tomorrow does not demand preparation. It will arrive on its own, as it always does. Outside, the night holds the land quietly. Inside, sleep settles fully. Another day has taken its place among many others, unmarked and complete. The rhythm remains steady, uninterrupted, carrying the farmer forward gently, toward whatever comes next.